pretty clear that you don't have to file with them to be a church. We don't want our donors to be exempt from IRS rules. As far as I'm concerned, I have no desire to have 501c3 status with the IRS. The state rules don't require us to file with the IRS. The IRS's rules don't require us to file with the IRS.
So if I make a donation to you of $5,000, I can't claim it?
That's correct.
Okay. Is that one of, never mind.
We recommend you don't file the taxes.
It kind of defeats the purpose of the public good. You don't think? No?
Lots of public good is done. Are we talking about the public good of taxes, or are we talking about the public good of a church?
It's contrary to the most fundamental concept of law and the constitutional process.
Okay.
And I know you have issues with that.
Right. All we want to do is separate ourselves from that voluntarily, and the fact is that process won't let us separate. And we're using the legal rules as they exist to do just such a thing.
And the title of the property has been transferred to an LLC, I understand?
Nope.
Is that correct? No?
No, Shire Free Church Monadnock.
LLC.
That's not an LLC, that's a New Hampshire
Prior was
nonprofit.
a holdings LLC, and then it was transferred into.
Into a New Hampshire nonprofit.
But I thought it said something about, Shire Free Church Holdings, LLC.
That's not the owner of the property.
It was transferred from you to Shire Free Holdings, and then after that, it was then transferred to the church. I bet correct.
That's correct.
We were concerned with the status of the LLC and how that would be interpreted, so we changed it over to a New Hampshire nonprofit.
Do you have a copy of that?
Not on me.
Okay.
It should
I
be
didn't
in the
consider that
records
that would be a
there.
question.
I didn't see a copy of the deed.
It is Shire Free Church. Monadnock is the official
Okay.
owner at this point. No longer an LLC.
So it's just a typo.
They originally submitted 2 applications. One was sent back to us in January, and then I believe after it was transferred to the Monadnock Church. Then at that point, they submitted another application clarifying you should have both copies of the A9s
Yeah.
there. And that's why they had done
So if your organization dissolves, what happens to the assets?
I guess we would have to come up with some system.
That's addressed in the Articles of Agreement.
And where is that
Yeah.
Articles of Agreement?
It was attached to the questionnaire.
It's here somewhere. The page of the signatures is the Articles of Agreement? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right.
I guess the answer is, obviously we'd sell the property. Same as the Methodists over here. They've got a church up. What do they do when they dissolve?
Well, I think there's a government process for that,
Selling things? We get stamps? and
if
stuff.
it's a nonprofit.
Cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, that's one of the tests, is if you meet that, if you have that dissolution agreement in your
It's in it.
articles.
Yeah, well, Mark, maybe you aren't familiar, you don't recall, but the Articles of Agreement say that it'll transfer back to the Shire Free Church.
It says if the organization dissolves, its assets must be distributed for an exempt purpose to the federal government or to a state or local government for a public purpose, if you're a true nonprofit, or
Why is the United Methodist Church not public property then?
I don't know what their dissolution agreement has been.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I guess it's still owned by the United Methodists then.
Perhaps it is.
So,
But
being
it should
owned-
be addressed in your articles of agreement.
It should be addressed there. I don't have it in front of me right now, but if I recall correctly, it'll go back to the Shire Free Church, the larger organization.
So right now, both sides, 73 and 75, are used for the church?
They're parsonages.
And who lives there?
Ian does and Daryl does.
Just
It's
to
in
look
the
at-
questionnaire.
I read the questionnaire, but it was kind of, nobody else lives there, just you and Daryl?
That's correct.
we have a large audience today, so I'm going to read into record the city assessor, the assessing office's recommendation to the board. Shire Free Church, Monadnock filed an application for real estate tax exemption under RSA 7223C, in which they request an exemption pursuant to RSA 7223, Roman numeral 3. The basis given by the applicant is that the property it owns, 7375 Leverett Street, is primarily used for ministers' parsonages. The applicant asserts that his religious organization is regularly recognized and they constitute denomination, creed, or sect. The Shire Free Church Monadnock is registered as a New Hampshire nonprofit corporation effective December 12, 2013. Their stated purpose, as set forth in the Article of Agreement, is as follows. Primarily, this corporation will assist the ministers in their mission of fostering peace by facilitating interaction with the people calling themselves the state, regarding serving the common community through positive action for charitable, educational, and religious purposes. This corporation is established to appease whatever arbitrary and nebulous dictates handed down by whichever monopolistic, violent governmental agency may turn its capricious attention towards the Shire Free Church, its people, and or any of its ministers, while we go about the good work of spreading the idea of human freedom and morality. Courts have ruled that simply registering with the Secretary of State of New Hampshire or being registered by the federal tax exemption under IRC 501c3 alone is not reason enough to grant a property tax exemption. Therefore, in an effort to gain a better understanding of the applicant and how the uses of its property relates to the claimed exempt purpose, the city requests additional information as provided for in RSA 7223C, Roman numeral 2. Ian Freeman has responded to the questions, a copy of which has been submitted to the board, which we have been going over in some detail today. The applicant defined its purpose as our mission, inspired by God, Allah, universe, and the inner light, is to foster peace, freedom, and personal responsibility. In response to questions pertaining to the tax-exempt use of Leverett Street property, the applicant stated that sectarian activities were praying, meditation, singing, spiritual discussion, as inspired, where inspired. The secular activities at the property include eating, sleeping, as necessary, where appropriate. The applicant, in response to a question pertaining to a location on the property where religious ceremonies services occur, stated, "We believe that wherever 2 or more church members are gathered for such purposes is our church." Further, the applicant reported that there were 5 members of its church leadership, those being 5 members of the board of directors, but that anyone become a member of the church so long as the person signs the Shire Society Declaration and be of peace. It was also reported that an individual may become an ordained minister in the Shire Free Church by signing the Shire Society Declaration and becoming approved unanimously by the board members. A copy of the Shire Society Declaration has also been provided to the board for their information. RSA 7223M states, "The burden of demonstrating the applicability of any exemption shall be upon the claimant." New Canaan Academy versus the Town of Keene also ruled that its applicant's burden to prove it is entitled to tax exemption. Furthermore, in interpreting RSA 7223 Roman numeral 3, the New Hampshire Supreme Court has stated, "In construing religious exemption statute, we do not adopt a liberal attitude because it is a charity, nor a hostile attitude because it seeks exemption from taxation. This legislative intention is sought without regard to rules requiring strict or liberal construction for certain classes of legislation. We have previously held that the legislation in drafting RSA 7223 Roman numeral 3 intended to exempt land owned and occupied by religious associations as in part of or used directly in conjunction with buildings used principally for religious purposes." So the information submitted by the Shire Free Church, Monadnock, as reviewed by the City Assessor's Office, does not meet its burden of demonstrating the applicability of the request for property tax exemption in RSA 7223 Roman numeral 3 to the property located at 7375 Leverett Street. Therefore, it is the city's recommendation that the request for tax exemption be denied. Board has any other additional questions or discussion, or we can take a motion and
I think there's a big difference between form and substance, and I think that's our, that's going to be provided clarity. You know, it may be in form, but it may not be in substance. I mean, when they refer to activists, I think that flies in the face of your church status or your, I think a political stance is something that cannot be defined in that regard.
It's a moral stance, and the UU Church allows Democrats to meet there.
Just for clarity, you had an opportunity to speak at this point. So at this point, we're just allowing the board to communicate for the public's benefit.
And, well, and just to address that, many churches allow meetings of various types throughout the city. But when you refer to yourself as activists, I mean, that's a clear-cut statement to myself. I'm not sure about the other board members, but there's an underlying meaning there, and I'm just putting that out there.
I make the motion that we deny the request.
I agree.
Barry makes a motion to deny,
I agree.
seconded by Mary. Like the vote? Cynthia?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yep.
Vote 3-0, the Board of Assessors votes to deny the application for exempt status for Shire Free Church, Monadnock. So, moving on in our meeting, Diane has passed out minutes from last meeting. Does the board have any questions about those minutes? If not, I'll take a motion on those to accept those.
I motion to second.
I second.
Second,
That's written.
vote 3-0. All in
Yes.
favor?
Yeah, that's fine. Good job, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. And does the board have any other questions or order of business? Staff has none. So we'll close the Board of Assessors meeting. Thank you all for attending.
So much for religious freedom.